Hello world, and welcome to this first episode of How to Code That. Today we're gonna learn how to code this displacement map transition effect. So this effect is using 2D shaders with a displacement map to create this kind of like watery effect transition between images. So basically to do that, you need to know the basics of JavaScript, HTML, CSS, and you need to also know a little bit about shaders, maybe what a fragment shader is mainly. But don't worry, you can still learn about that reading docs, and I'm going to be fast, but you should actually pause the video at any time to take time to read the code and write it in your text editor. Before we start, just know that everything is in the description. You can get the link to the template to start this exercise. You can also support my channel on my Patreon. You can also, by supporting my channel, you can get access directly to the code of this demo. So not to the tutorial, but this final demo. And that's it. Right, I think we can begin. Okay, so first of all, for this effect, I'm using the WebGL library. It's a powerful WebGL library, and it's really light, and it's really useful to create to quickly start coding shaders, because it's super easy. Like, you just have to write not a lot of line of code compared to native WebGL, and you can directly starting writing your shaders inside. Cool, so I'm gonna use that. Okay, so first thing you need to do is to download the template for that. So the template we're gonna use for this project is this one. You can find the link in the description. The template is using Vite, and it have OGL already installed with a bunch of stuff like a loader manager. So it's gonna be easily for me to show you how to code that. Cool, so you can either clone it using a git command, or you can just download it. I'm gonna download it just for the purpose of this tutorial, and I'm going to go here. All right, cool. Okay, okay, should be there. And cool, so I'm just gonna create a new window. And I'm going to open the file. So here, this one. Okay, cool. All right, so you should have these files. So these are a bunch of stuff already. As you can see, you have a HTML file ready for that with a canvas scene. Inside this canvas, you have a OGL scene here, components, that is already doing some stuff, just basic stuff really. It's just one mesh. And that's it. So first thing you have to do is to open your terminal. Here, do npm install. All right. Okay, and then you want to do npm run dev. Cool, now you just have to click on this link, and you should have that already on the screen. Okay, now that we have that, we can start trying to reproduce this effect. Okay, so the first thing we want to do, so here we're just gonna do only one card, one scene with the effect, because otherwise the video is gonna be too long. And so for that, we want to make our canvas scene as a card shape, right? So that way. So to that, we are just gonna use some CSS. But first of all, let's remove this. We don't need this, right? And we don't need the footer as well. Feel free to remove that first. Okay, so now that we have that, we're gonna add some divs. So the one will be scene. Then we're gonna have a container just for the purpose of this exercise. And then we're gonna have our canvas. Yeah, we could do like that. Okay. Oops, sorry. Okay, so first we have that. Then what we want to do is we want to so change the CSS first. So here you can go to the scene. Okay, so here we're gonna use the aspect ratio. If you're not familiar with that, it's really useful to always keep the same aspect ratio of your block, even if you are resizing your device. And you can just give it a width. You don't need the height. Okay. Then we don't see anything, but that's normal. I'm just like writing ahead. So here we're gonna have like that. Height 100% as well. Yes, I think, and then okay. Okay, and this guy there. Okay, so that's for the CSS. And now, just to be sure, we need here to select the canvas element right here. So to do that, we just need to call our tag here. So this one. Okay. This is still not working. The reason is because we are here setting the size of our canvas using the WebGL library. So renderer is basically your main context. So when you always want to update the size of it, and here we basically want the size of the element. So the element will be the parent actually. I think we can take the whatever. I think we could just take the scene here, and we're gonna use that. And here we're gonna replace. And offset high. Okay, so now it's working. We have our scene like that, but we want to center it, right? So to center it, we can just here add a class main, for example. Yeah, and here we can. Yeah, I mean, I know it's bad CSS, but like the reason of this tutorial is to do WebGL, so I think we're okay with that. Okay, we're just gonna, add main class here. And we're gonna just center it so we can do that. Then center it. And align items just using flexbox, really convenient. Center, sorry. I think it's align. Oh yeah, and height needs to be like that. Okay, cool. Cool, so we have our card. Now we can also change the background, so it's a little bit better, right? So white like that, I think it's great. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do now is to load our images and put them inside of this canvas, right? So we just want these images, for example. So to do that, we are just gonna use the loader manager. So the loader manager is already there, and it's basically gonna load your image, then it's gonna wait for your image to be loaded, and then it's gonna have a callback. And inside this callback, it's gonna give you an object. Inside this object, you're gonna have access to the loaded image and also the texture of the loaded image. So the texture is something that is created by WebGL. here, and it's basically giving you a texture for WebGL context. So that's what we want. So cool. So to do that, we are just gonna go to our scene here. You can uncomment, it's already there. You have the loader manager. And from there, you can just load. So we're gonna load our image one. Image one. Okay, we're gonna call it. You can also give it a name. So we're gonna call it. Yeah, let's take that. It's great. Cool. So this is loading actually our image, but we now want to use this image inside of our program. So the program is what's contained our two shaders. So you already have like a basic shaders that is creating these colors, but we want to replace that by the image. So to do that, we need to give this as a uniform to our program. So first of all, we need to wait for the loader to be done. So to that, you can choose await async. And basically, when using await, that means that all the code that is under this line is gonna be written by the browser only after this is done with his job. And his job is to load this image. So here, it's gonna work. We just need, every time you use await, you need to, your function or here our method, you can do that with anything. This needs to be an async function. So now it should work. Okay. So now that we have that, we can just create our uniform, call it whatever you want. And then here, we're gonna just do that. And then I'm not sure here if it's, I'm checking. Okay. Okay, so we have our texture here and it's loaded. So now we just want to basically load it inside of our scene. So to do that, we're gonna use the fragment shader. So inside the fragment shader, we are just calling your uniform and it's gonna be a sampler 2D. So that's how texture are. And that's it. Then what we want to do is here, we want this to be equal to texture 2D. So that's something. So that's a basic function that are already in the LSL. So it's a native function of WebGL. Here we just want to basically give it a texture with the UV. So the UVs are basically the coordinate from 0 to 1 of your scene. So here the coordinates are, here is 0, 1, so that's V, and U is like that, 0 and 1. So here we have already these coordinates. All right, so it's working. As you can see, we have our image. Cool. We have our image, but we can do better. As you can see here, if I changing the aspect ratio, let's say like that, and then reload. Okay, so as you can see, the image is stretched. The reason why is because we keep using the UVs of our scene, and our scene is like that, but the ratio of our image is more a portrait one. So of course it's getting stretched. So to avoid that, I have a little tool, just a JavaScript function that is basically giving you the right UVs inside the shader. So to do that, the right UVs, I'm using what you can easily do in CSS called a background size cover. So it's basically gonna crop the image to fit perfectly the container and be in the center of it. So here we're gonna do that, but inside the shader. So to do that, we already have this function here. I'm not gonna go too much in details, but basically this is doing the difference between the ratio of your scene and the ratio of your image. It gives you two vectors. So first vectors of 2 is basically the multiplier, so that your UVs of the scene will match the UVs of the image. And the second one is an offset. So it's basically gonna reposition the image to be center. So it's gonna be negative on the U or negative on the V, depending of portrait to landscape or etc. So that's basically that. You can use it directly here. And so that's what we're gonna do. So we're gonna create here what I'm gonna call that. Okay, so I'm gonna call that UV texture, UV cover 1. And I'm gonna call get cover here. So get cover is here, what we are calling. So the function that we're using, so this one. And here we need to give the GL context and the image. Okay, so GL is that, and the image is going to be this dot image. Why we have that image? Because this is the texture and this is the image. Difference is that the texture is basically what gives you OGL, the library WebGL, to make it work with the shader. It's just WebGL basically. The texture is WebGL stuff and the image is like just a JavaScript object image. Okay, so here we gonna have two things. So you repeat. So the vector that will give you so I think it's repeat. So this vector is gonna give you the multiplier to get the perfect ratio, and then the offset's gonna center the image. So the offset, okay, and offset. Okay, I'm just checking just to be sure. Yeah, I think that's it. Okay, cool. And then we can just here. Okay, so first here we need to do this. Okay. So here we are creating a VUV map1 vector, vector 2, that we're gonna give to the image, so it's gonna be perfectly centered and cropped. So we just need to create a new variable in the vertex. Everything that you can do in the vertex will be less compilation in the end. So do the most of the calculation in the vertex shader when you can, and then pass them to the fragment shader, because this is called to every vertices, and this is called to every pixel. So that's much lot calculation in the fragment than in the vertex. Okay. So here we have also to add our two uniforms, sorry, so vec2. I think I totally forgot to talk about how the scene is created here, but that's basically the basic example of WebGL is that it's creating one triangle and it's centering the triangle here. So you can see 1, 1, 1, and 1 into a square. So we are just using the square of one triangle to draw our scene. That's just saving one triangle, because if you want to do a square in WebGL, you have to use two triangles. But here we are using one triangle, but we kind of like zoom in inside of it, and we are just using this square. Anyway, everything is commented, so you can read that, or go to the WebGL doc and see. All right, sorry for that. Then we have that. Okay, so we are giving this. I think I'm having an error. Okay, we'll see. Oh no, I think it's just my linter. And then in the fragment shader, we can just use the new UVs and see. Okay. Yeah, I think I messed up something. Yep. UV offset 1 has not been supplied. Okay, I think probably the name or something that I... Oh yeah, it's U. U, not UV. Sorry. I think I should... Yeah, let's call it UV. I think it makes more sense. UV. Okay, cool. And it's working. So as you can see, this is perfectly cropped, and we have a good images here. I can also increase the quality. No, but it's okay, I think. Yeah, maybe I'm gonna just increase the quality here. Never do that. I'm just doing it because I'm not on the Retina and I'm just loading one image. But basically, this is for Retina display only. If you're not on the Retina display, just use this thing. But here, just because the video will be bad quality, I'm just increasing the quality. Okay, yeah, it's better, right? Cool. Cool, so we have our image. So we can go back to our, here to our previous card stuff. Okay, perfect. And as you can see, you can always change the container and it will be perfectly centered. Cool, so we have done that with one image. We now need to do that with the second image. So let's go. Here we have our second image, and okay, so we just, really easy, we just do the same thing. We also have to get the cover UVs, so the second image will be centered as well. Here and here. We have our second texture, it's gonna be this one. Our second UV multiplier and UV offsets. Okay, now that we have that, here we just need to also give the UVs of the second image. So just replace these. Okay, same here. Yeah, it's just basically copy and paste twice. Not really convenient, but for this demo, it's gonna be faster. Cool, and then here, we're gonna have that. We also have our second texture. And here we're gonna have, let's create texture 1. Okay. And texture 2. Okay. So here we can switch easily. Cool. So we have our texture 2 and our texture 1 if you want to switch. Now we can also load the displacement map texture. So I will explain what it is. We don't need to get the cover of it because we basically want to use it to make the water effect. So even if it's stretched, I think that will look watery still. So we just want to load the texture. First we have to load it actually. So the displacement texture is this one, as you can see. It's already there in the template, so you already have access to it. Displacement map. And I think it's called displacement map. Yep. And we're gonna call it displacement texture, if that makes sense. Okay. So here we can also have our displacement texture. It's gonna be same. Oops. And so here we can call texture and we can just use the UVs of the scene. So the VUVs. Just check. Okay. So as you can see, it's a bit stretched, but we don't care about that. All right, so now we can start finally the displacement effect that we want. So for that, we're gonna use a displacement map shader. How it's working? So basically, we're gonna use the value of each pixel of this image. So every pixel here that is white, the value is 111. The RGB value is 111. And every pixel that is black is 000. And the one that are gray in the middle is between 0 and 1. And basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna update the UVs. So we're gonna update these UVs based on the value of each pixel of this image. And what we're gonna do is that if the pixel is white, we're gonna move the UVs really strongly in a direction. And if the pixel is black, we're gonna move it in the same direction, but like just a little bit. So it's gonna kind of like create this distortion effect. So that's how it's working. And then we can displace it in any direction. Here you can see I'm doing it that way, but that just, you can do anything you want. All right, so to do that, we're gonna use the displacement shader. So it's this one. Okay. All right, so here we basically gonna use this UVs effect. So okay, so here we are using the displacement texture R value. Why R? Why not? Everything that is gray or white or black, they all have the same value. RGB will be the same value. So we can use either the R, G, or B value and it will be the same. So here we're gonna use R. Then we're gonna use the U offset. So the U offset is just here, the value that is here, powered by lil GUI, sorry. It's just basically giving us a value easily, and we can tweak the value easily just with this slider, so it's great. And we're gonna use displacement coef. So for that, we're gonna just make a constant. It's gonna be how strong the displacement effect will be. So the watery effect will be, if you want. All right. So now that we have that, we're gonna change the UVs, like I said. So we're gonna change the UVs of the first texture here by just adding it on the U, so that way, and adding it on the V, so that way. We're gonna just add this force to these coordinates. Now that we have our coordinates here, we just want to have our texture. Well, actually, I can directly do that. And here, maybe it's cleaner that way. So let's do displaced texture 1, because we're using the texture 1. That makes more sense. So same thing here. And we just have to use the texture 1 and use the displaced UVs, right? So it's gonna be distorted. And then use that here. I have an error. I just have to check. Oh yeah, I forgot to. I have to keep that. All right, so that's really ugly, but it's working, as you can see. So yeah, and I just need to change the slider to be from 0 to 1. So okay, great. Just there. All right, so if you go from 0 to 1, let's see. See, so it's working and it's going in one direction, in that direction, right? Perfect, right? We can easily see the distortion on the effect and it's working great. Cool. Man, that was the hard part, I would say. But now that we have that, we need to do a transition from this image to the other texture. So to do that, we're gonna apply the effect in the two texture at the same time. Not really at the same time, but we're gonna do an interpolation between these two values. But we're gonna apply, okay, so first let's apply this effect on the other texture. So here. Okay. So it's gonna be displayed texture 2. Okay, so take a look at it. We're doing the same thing, but we're using 1 minus offset. So y minus offset is just a way to invert the value. So basically when the offset value will be 1, this will be equal to 0, and it will be no displacement at all. And when the offset will be 0, then it's gonna be full displacement on the second texture. So that's what we want. Then as you can see here, instead of adding plus, we are using minus. So that means it's gonna move in the opposite direction. So it's gonna go that way, but we can change that if we want. So displacement will go that way, and then the other displacement will go that way. So it's gonna kind of merge both of them. Okay, cool. And yeah, that's it. Basically, it's the same process. So now that we have that, we can save it. Here you can see the offset is 1, so it's no displacement. But if I go to 0, it's gonna be full displacement like that. And it's going that way. So the opposite way. Cool. And now we're almost done. We have just one thing that we need to do. Is to do the interpolation between these two values. So to do that, you have to write this code in the shader. All right, so basically what we're going to do is gonna say, okay, I'm gonna have the texture 1 multiplied by the value of set. And I'm gonna add the texture 2 So texture are the RGB colors basically. So it's gonna basically do a fade between both of them. So when your offset is 0 here, here's gonna be what you see. And here is gonna equal to 0, so you won't see that. And if your offset is 1, it's gonna be 0 here, so you won't see that. And here it's gonna be 1, so you will see this texture. And if it's like 1.5, 0.5, sorry, it's gonna be plus, so it's gonna be the mix of both of them. And let's see. And that's it. We have our effect. So cool, it's working great. Then we can add like some effect on hover if you want, like what I did here. Whoa. Oops. So I just added like a mouse center event and a mouse leave event basically in the scene. And here I'm just doing that. Feel free to pause the video if it's fast for you. Here we are loading JZap to do the animation. It's basically a library that's really powerful to create this kind of nice easing and timing effect. And that's here. So you have your mouse over effect. So once you have that, you can do anything you want. See, you can change this value, for example, just to displacement to cross it. I mean, you can do whatever you want, basically, once you have this concept. Okay, that's it for this episode. I hope you guys liked it, and I hope you guys learned a lot. Write in a comment if you have any questions. You can support the channel on my Patreon. By supporting the channel, you can also get access to the source code with the final result, so the demo. So you can get access to this code. And that's it. I hope you guys liked it, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye!